It would seem that horror was the point of what Pontius Pilate did when he apparently murdered some Galileans in the temple and took their blood and sacrificed them to God. Horror because on so many levels this would have struck the Jews as horrific. First, the prohibition against murder, of course, but then also all the rules that surrounded a proper sacrifice to God. What made an animal not have any blemishes? What was appropriate? And Pilate, you could see, to horrify the populace, using the grammar of ritual action but perverting it, taking the blood of innocent people who've been killed and then using it to sacrifice to God. That would have been quite deeply offensive. And when something similar like this had happened about 150 years ago, when the Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes, when he came and he conquered and he put in the temple in Jerusalem an altar to Zeus, to the Greek god Zeus, and then he sacrificed, we think it was probably something like a pig on it. In the Bible, in historical memory, in Judaism, they call it the desolating sacrilege, the desolation of sacrilege. It was something so horrible that when Epiphanes did this, that then there was a revolt among the people and Judea was free for about 100 years. And so you would think, well, Pilate was playing with fire when he was attempting to pervert this very, the deepest important thing for the Jewish people, the temple and their ritual sacrifice. So you think horror was the point, but I don't think it was that, because what happened after Judea was free was about 100 years later. Pompey came to Jerusalem and he laid siege to it and he conquered it, and he himself now went into the temple, but he didn't do anything like what Epiphanes did. He didn't create an altar to Zeus or sacrifice pigs. He just went into the Holy of Holies, the one place right in the center that only one person could go in, the high priest, once a year. And so he took it upon himself to go in, took a look around. That was it. Didn't do anything else, didn't touch anything, just left. And then said, okay, the sacrifices can go on next year, like the next day. So the Jews, you can go and sacrifice, do your usual thing. And so on the one level, it seems like, wow, that was such an exercise of Roman mercy. But soon after, Judea became a province of the Roman Republic, and then when it became an empire, a province of the Roman Empire. So really, when Pompey went in there, he was exercising, he wasn't trying to horrify the populace, he was trying to subdue them. Horror wasn't really the point for the Romans, it was submission. Submission. But I'm going to walk in here, I could, in the Holy of Holies, I could do lots of damage to it, but I don't need to. But I'm going to step in here, even though I'm not supposed to, but I'm going to because I can. I'm just going to leave it alone, and then you will submit to us. You will submit to us. Now, one of the reasons the temple was so important in Jesus' time was that the temple was sort of a microcosm of the universe. So what happened in the temple, how the temple was ordered or disordered, reflected the universe, how it was ordered or disordered. So sacrilege in the temple meant sacrilege in the universe. Disobedience to God's command in the temple meant disobedience to God. And you can see how the Romans must have intuited this, that if we can get the people to obey us by attacking their temple, then we can subdue the whole populace. When I was in high school for my senior project, we had to do these senior service projects. My senior project was teaching a U.S. citizenship class, sort of to pass the U.S. citizenship test to newly arrived immigrants who were getting naturalized. So these were people who had green cards, and they were trying to get pass the test. And so it was me, this Korean-American immigrant, with three older Hispanic immigrants. working for Catholic Charities. And so I taught this class, just like this is the Constitution, here's the separation of powers, here were the 13 colonies. And it was really fun because I like American history and civics. And they were very excited to learn, who is George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and this is what the judiciary branch does, and the executive branch and the legislative branch, etc. If you think about what happens at the end of a class like this or a process, we have a ritual, right? It's the naturalization ceremony. And in the ceremony, the people raise their hand in front of a judge, and they take an oath of allegiance, a kind of civic sacrament. And if we were to think about, for us in the United States today, and all of our religious pluralism, what is our temple? Right? It's not going to be a Christian church. We have lots of different people in our country who have different religions, which is great, what makes us so strong. But you might say that moment, right, in a kind of courtroom, right, where people are pledging allegiance to this new country, a country not like other countries, made up of people of blood and soil, of common ethnic background, but people all who come and pledged allegiance to a particular ideal, right? Law, equality under the law. In that moment, you have people of all different backgrounds who've learned, about our history and values, and then they take this oath. And that, to me, is kind of the highest civic sacrament, our sort of temple, right? And so now, when we have a moment where this idea of people coming, immigrants, and giving them a process of becoming citizens, when that has become perverted, when the grammar of that ritual is now being used to do the opposite thing, not to uphold equality under the law, but actually to literally disappear people, take them from their dorm rooms or their families. They've been here 35 years, and whisk them away without any due process, even though we are a nation of laws, we are a nation of immigrants. This is the value that we all hold together, and to pervert them, right? And then so that you disappear them, not just in our own prisons, but in foreign prisons, so that people have no way to even reach them or find any kind of redress. This should strike us all, and I think does strike us all at the deepest core of our being, because something is happening here that goes contrary to all of our values. And like in the Jewish system, where the temple was a reflection of God's cosmic order, and so disorder in the temple is disobedience to God, we might say that we had ordered our republic along a certain kind of value system. Maybe we'll call it a Judeo-Christian value system, so that equality under the law wasn't just an idea that we pulled out of Plato or Aristotle or Cicero, but that also is a biblical idea, that all people are created by God with a certain kind of dignity, a biblical idea, so that when our own civic rituals now become perverted, that then there is some kind of offense, not just among fellow citizens, but also against God, that we are now violating some kind of thing in the cosmic order. And what are the consequences of that? Well, Jesus said, don't think that because you are not the Galileans being sacrificed in the temple that you are free. Like, Jesus didn't say, let's all gather together and resist, although that has to happen. In this episode, after he gives this horrifying picture of what is happening under Rome, he says, you too are also liable to judgment if you don't repent. And so in this moment where our civic rituals are being perverted, that the values that we all held together and made us who we are being turned upside down, where our civic temple, in our civic temple, there is a desolating sacrilege, the response of Jesus first is to turn it back to you and to me, and to say, do not think that because it's not affecting you right now, do not think because you did not vote for this, do not think that because your life right now here on the Upper West Side in Manhattan seems fine, that you will also not be condemned. Because this is an offense against the cosmic moral order. And so therefore, be warned. Repent.